it and that a finish doesn't happen. And then I think the third, I wouldn't say I'm avoiding it, but I might be a little bit underweight on is the Agapova Cyphers in case Agapova really doesn't go out there and put on a good performance against the tough Hannah Cyphers.
I mean, I tell you what, because I know every week we kind of get these stack questions, and we mentioned about the main event.
Yeah.
Is Fili Jourdain a fight that you look at stacking in a main event only scenario?
Man. Okay, main event only. I mean, main card only. I don't know, man. I guess. See, the problem with that is I don't see how I really think that it has to be the main event or pass in that situation because I don't really see any losing fighter outscoring either Jessica Eye or Cynthia Calvillo based on the 5 rounds. Do you?
No.
That's what I'm saying, right?
And the thing with the Eye Calvillo fight is I feel like it's going to stay on the feet.
Yeah. I think so too. I mean, that's what they're going to want. Jessica Eye is going to want to keep it on the feet and avoid getting put on her back. And, I think that the speedy Calvillo could lead to a lot of points.
Yeah, by the way, if you do have any questions, be sure to hit them up right now in the YouTube chat. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button as well. That does help us out a lot as well. Of course, if you do have any questions, that is the place to hit us up as I got the chat here right in front of my screen so I can see all of your questions. So be sure to hit that chat in right there right now. DJ Killer Kev says, favorite FanDuel GPP strategy. King Pie says contrarian FanDuel GPP, Julia and Adeshev or Jourdain and Kevin Aguilar.
I like the Jourdain and Kevin Aguilar. I think I like that one a little bit more than Julia Adeshev.
And DJ Killer Kev said, talk about favorite FanDuel GPP strategy. I think I'm going to look at that $15 and under. Can I come up with 2 fighters in that range that I really do like? He says struggling with MVP player, which I'm sure that's over on the FanDuel side of things. I look at Merab to me is a safe play. Now you're paying up for him at $20. Ivey and Aguilera to me has the potential to be the lineup that will be in the optimal lineup, though.
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. I wonder how many people are going to actually target the first fight or avoid it because there's so many unknowns. And I think that because the guys are relatively inexperienced, that a finish does happen.
Ty, he says, don't know if my question got deleted. Is there a lean between Ivey and Aguilera? I've probably got 50-50 shares on this one. For me, and look, I've known Christian for a while now, so I guess, knowing him for a while, I'll probably lean. But to me is if Ivey can get the fight and get Christian on his back, that to me is the interesting thing.
Yeah, I think you favor Christian a little bit more, and I think I'm a little bit more towards Ivey. It's pretty funny because I'm a striker and I'm favoring grapplers, but it's based on, just the DraftKings strategy behind it of how DraftKings favors grapplers, and I do see Aguilera being tough enough to get back to his feet a bunch of times. And I think that the relentlessness of Ivey could lead to a lot of points. I have both. I'm like 55-45. So, I don't hate either side, honestly.
Next up, we have got best main card stack from Jason.
Main card stack. I think it's the main event, man. How do you stack Vittoria Robertson?
I don't think you can.
How do you stack Dalashvili against the late replacement sacrificial lamb headed in Jurassic Park? I don't see anything.
In terms of the main card, because I mean, Rosa, Kevin Aguilar's on the main card.
Yeah.
Fili Jourdain, I don't think is a bad fight to look at stacking.
Okay. I don't think so either. I mean, I think the potential for the fight stack is the main event or bust.
Yeah, that's something to play into. Of course, this is the Awesemo.com live before lock for UFC Vegas 2, which of course starts here in about an hour from now. But do want to let you know that this show is presented by SuperDraft. The future of daily fantasy sports has arrived. Experience SuperDraft's exclusive game mode multiplier. Say goodbye to salary restrictions and hello to lineup freedom. Use your fantasy sports knowledge to draft any player you want and build your very own dream team. Countless lineup possibilities let you experience daily fantasy sports the way you want. SuperDraft now offers contests for PGA, NASCAR, and MMA, so you can enjoy the best of DFS all year round. Sign up for SuperDraft today using the promo code Awesemo, and it's $10 free on your first deposit of $10 or more and $20 total free on your first deposit of $100 or more. Download it in the App Store or play at superdraft.io. SuperDraft, no limits, more winning. Get back to the questions here. Of course, be sure to leave a question there on the YouTube chat. Justin says, how will the small cage affect the sprawling and takedown defense of Kevin Aguilar?
I think that he could be pressed against the cage more often than not. I think, okay, let me go fight by fight. Calvillo against I think Calvillo's game plan is obviously to grab a hold of Jessica I. So maybe, leaning on Jessica I against the cage taxes Jessica I. Maybe the weight cut helps. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think the smaller cage helps Calvillo in that situation. Vittori, the easiest way to beat Roberson is taking him down. So I think that could favor Vittori a little bit. Dalishvili, oh my God, that's amazing for him. Feely against Jourdain. The smaller cage could really help Feely if he starts to get pressed and lit up on the feet, and he could look for those easy takedowns against Jourdain. Espinosa de la Rosa, I think they're going to negate each other. It's a very close fight. Hannah Cyphers against Agapova. Cyphers does not want to be on the outside. She will get picked apart by Agapova based on the reach and the height advantage. So maybe the smaller cage does help Cyphers, where it's more forced, close to close, phone booth type of action. Obviously, I don't think Cyphers really does well in that situation. Rosa against Aguilar. Aguilar is going to look to keep it up, sprawl and brawl. If he's in shape, I like him, but I could see it helping Rosa based on his takedowns. Mazzani against Avila, and I think this is what people aren't talking about, is Mazzani likes to take people down and press them against the cage, and you just gave her a shorter cage. I think that it favors her in that situation. However, I think Avila wins the fight. Nam Adashev, that's going to be a war. And then the Ivey Aguilera fight, I think that the smaller cage could help Ivey as well. So obviously you see the trend. It's that the smaller cage helps grapplers in the sense of the aggressive strikers have to be very careful. They cannot just go in there wild. So, big difference for me. When I fought in Bellator, right, I could dance around the cage and move around, and I didn't have to worry about what I was throwing. When I fought in the promotion I fight for now, CES, it's a smaller cage, and I feel like I have to be more methodical and pick my shots because I don't want to throw one easy shot and they duck under and press me against the cage or take me down. So I think that's a big adjustment a lot of fighters are having to make this fight.
You want to mention a question I got on Twitter from Tyler. He says, do you like the combination of Feely, Mazzani, or Espinosa and Aguilera?
In that situation, I think I'd go Espinosa, Aguilera. Just because I have a few lineups with Mazzani, but I don't have faith in it. I have it because I need somebody in the cheap range, but I think I could see the Aguilera and Espinosa working out.
Next up from Matthew says, on FanDuel, do you like Vittori or Avila better?
What do you think, Jason?
I'd probably Marvin Vittori, I think.
Yeah, same for me. He's a decision type of guy though. But the thing against Roberson is Roberson likes to strike, and you think Roberson's some crazy striker. He's a good striker, but the guy does not have good cardio, and he's shooting takedowns after the first minute and a half of each round because he's exhausted. Now, he does that against Vettori. He's going to run right into a choke, or he's going to get spun around and just dominated on the mat. And I don't think that his cardio is going to be better right now. If anything, it might be worse with the extra 5 pounds. So I think Vettori is the safer play in that situation.
Of course, everyone who watched our show on Thursday, they see Pete's spreadsheet that is up on awesemo.com. Of course, if it is a free article, but if you want to sign up for the Awesemo Plus program, where you can get access to all of our great tools and content for tonight's MMA slate with the weekly pass for $8.95. That includes full access to Awesemo's leading fighter projection, ownership projections, and top fighter tool. There's never been a better time for MMA DFS, so get in the game today. Chase asks, favorite $12 punt on Fanduel, Adeshev, Cyphers, or Roberson?
Dang. Man, you're really giving us great options. I think, okay. Adeshev fight's probably going to be standing up. If he's in shape, if he had a full camp, I think I'd like him a little bit more. And obviously I hope that he does well. But I think Roberson has a legitimate chance of getting a knockout win. Cyphers is facing a girl who doesn't have any UFC experience. The X factor is obviously the size and the reach of Agapova. But sometimes that doesn't matter if a fighter doesn't know how to use it. And, that's a big thing, is if you don't know how to use your reach, you have an advantage and you're just not using it. And it's detrimental to your career. Obviously, I think the safer of those options is Roberson, but I can't hate on you if you want to take a flyer on Cyphers, who does have some UFC experience. Just don't expect a good DFS performance from her.
Mark asks, Agapova or Feely in cash?
I think Agapova, based on the reach and the fact that she likes to strike. Feely does run the risk of getting knocked out by the explosive Jourdain, but he does have the takedown upside. I think it's pretty even. What do you think?
I feel a little better about Feely in cash.
That's fair, because we have seen Feely beat some top talent and Miles Jury and, come close to beating Sadiq Youssef, but he has been hurt in several fights and taken a lot of damage over his short career. So I don't know, man. I don't think you can go wrong either way.
All right. We have Douglas, second highest score on DraftKings.
Ooh, second.
I think the question is, who do you say number one is?
I think it's Dalishvili. I don't think it's close.
I think it's, if you say it's Dalishvili is a top scorer, my number two scorer will be the winner of Calvillo. Could have a lot of significant strikes get landed.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's not a bad call. I'm going to say it's going to be somebody in the first fight.
Very well could be. Ty asks, he goes, would you go Vettori over Avila in cash on FanDuel still? Avila going to be super highly owned.
So in cash, you want to go with the ownership and you want to basically give yourself safe wins. Now, Vettori's a decision type of guy, and Avila is in a very favorable matchup, and she does have a lot of promise to her career, and we have seen Gina Mazzani struggle against competition. My worry is that Avila doesn't really get her offense going because she's pressed against the cage. I guess I have a slight lean to Vettori in this situation. Do you agree, or do you like Avila a little bit more? I'd probably go Vettori, because this is my thing with him. Could he essentially score 1 to 2 takedowns a round? He could. And can you imagine if he's pissed off enough to get a finish over Carl Roberson? Maybe he breaks the norm here and he gets a late finish after really just putting it on him. That's going to be a great score. Of course, if you do have any questions, leave them right now in the chat. Best way to get your question here on the show. Of course, be sure to give Pete a follow on Twitter at Pete the Heat MMA. I know one of in the chat earlier mentioned
thanking Pete for giving him a follow after he followed Pete. Of course, I am at Jason_Floyd. Of course, the fights are 1 hour away, so you got 1 hour to make those final calls. In terms of I'm trying to think, is there a fight that we really haven't discussed much? I feel like Espinosa Del Rosa is a fight that we kind of we've talked a little bit about. We haven't talked a ton about. I think that fight may have the lowest ownership when you look at all the other fights. And I think there's a lot of valid reasons to that, though.
I'd agree. Okay, let's look at the stats, right? So average fight time for Espinosa is 7 minutes. De La Rosa is 11. They both average under 40 DraftKings points, which is not good. Okay, let's look at volume now. Strikes per minute, you have Espinosa at 4.25 and De La Rosa at 3.25. So slight edge to Espinosa. The accuracy favors Espinosa at 55%. The strikes absorbed favors Espinosa, 3 versus 4.25 for De La Rosa. So a little advantage in Espinosa here. Obviously, stats, it's a fight. You can throw out a lot of stats, but yeah, I can tell you that stats, odds, all that doesn't mean a dang thing once the cage locks. But it's helpful when you're looking here. So like average takedowns. Now, this is where I think De La Rosa could win, is by taking Espinosa down, but he only averages 0.66 takedowns a fight, whereas Espinosa is averaging 0.85. They both have some horrendous takedown accuracy of 20% for Espinosa, 15% for De La Rosa. So does this scream decision standing up or what? And not to mention, Espinosa's takedown defense is 83%. So you're going to say that De La Rosa's 0.66 takedowns per fight with his 15% takedown accuracy is going to take down an 83% defended takedown ratio for Espinosa. It's a lot of figures, but it's unlikely. It can happen. He could clip him, spin around him, or literally shuck past them and take his back, and it could happen. I think it's a good reason why we're not really talking about this fight. But if you want to look at a fight that's basically being lost in a shuffle, it's this one.
Yeah, when you look over on Super Draft in the non-captain spot, if you look at Espinosa 1.25 times, and over De La Rosa, he's 1.4.
Yeah, I don't know, man. This is like a spot where you're not going to be able to look into a crystal ball and get every pick correctly. You have to use logic. If I am out of the optimal lineup by not having enough Espinosa or De La Rosa, I guess I'm okay with it. I guess like logic prevails for me. And it's like, all right, well, 6 out of 10 times, what I'm doing works. And I think that could this be the exception? Possibly. I think it's unlikely, though.
Yeah, when I look at that captain spot on Super Draft, both fighters in the main event are appealing. Jessica I 1.95 times, Calvillo 2.05 times. Man, not sound like a broken record. Christian Aguilera 2.2 times. I mean, if he wins, he's going to cash well for you.
Is Aguilera your this week's Evan Dunham? Let's hope not.
Look, just because you had I joke with you about that now. Look, if you think Gustavo Lopez can shock the MMA world, man, he's got great value on Super Draft at 2.45. You want to put him in that captain spot?
Yeah,
don't recommend it though.
Yeah, I don't recommend it. There's crazy overlay over on Super Draft, so make sure you guys are heading on over there and pumping, getting in those contests, man. Like it sounds like it's some free cash to win over there, and I'm definitely going to be doing that and looking to get some nice multipliers in my lineup. The likelihood of Gustavo, I'm looking at the odds right now. He's a plus 600 underdog based on so many unknowns. Fight going to a decision in the Merab fight is minus 155. What does that tell you? That tells you that that it's most likely Merab dominating for 3 rounds, but going all 15 minutes.
Here's another question on that fight. So Merab was in a 135-pound fight. Because of the change, it's now at 140 pounds. How much weight did Gustavo cut to get the 140?
Yep.
And was Merab at that point pretty much already on weight?
Yeah, he didn't have to. Yeah. For Merab, it's like, okay, what's 5? No big deal. It's the guy's taking it on a day notice. And late-minute replacements sometimes cause problems for people, and it's because of, you overlook them, and they're dangerous in the first round. Maybe Gustavo Lopez says to himself, I only got 1 round in me. I know I'm going to get absolutely worked, so I'm going to go out there for hard 5 minutes and try to put away Merab. If he goes out there with that strategy, he's going to be in the optimal lineup if he wins.
Chase asks, lowest price option you have some confidence in.
Bro, I don't know how much confidence I have on anything on this card that is under 8,000. I think I'd go as low as Charles Jourdain for me as my confident 7K could pull the upset type of pick.
Yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot of great options. I mean, look, and there may be some fighters underneath AK that get the win, but just in terms of, looking at the fights of who you think could win, there, Charles Rosa, I think would be someone I'd probably have some confidence in at 78. But I think that's probably a fight that's going to go 15 minutes, it's his second fight in 36 days. How much does that play into it as well? That's something to take advantage. Tyler, it was a question we mentioned earlier, and Tyler, you may have missed it, so we'll answer it again. Which combination do we like better, Fili, Mazzani, or Espinoza and Aguilera? I would lean Espinoza and Aguilera.
Yeah, me too. I'd agree. Mazzani, she could do it, but that's asking a lot. She'd have to fight the most perfect fight ever. I mean, I think it's much easier to side with the other two.
In terms of this is on DraftKings, Douglas asks, Gina or Cyphers for GPP?
God, geez. Man, are we really debating this right now? This is crazy. I'm gonna have to have a bunch of alcohol beverages to watch this fight card, and I'm not the biggest drinker, but I think that some of these matchups are such a headache. I guess Cyphers. I mean, what are we picking between?
Yeah, there's man, not much to take for. Ty asks, Vettori and Jourdain or Espinoza Cyphers Fanduel cash?
Hold on, let me scroll up. I'm trying to find this.
Actually, okay, he updated it. He said Vettori or Jourdain or Acapulco Espinoza.
I like both of those. Okay, it's FanDuel cash though, right?
Yes.
Vettori, Jourdain, Espinoza. I like it. Which one do I like more though? I think Espinoza Agapova is safer. Vettori should get the win, but Jourdain is in a tough matchup against Fili. So I would say that Espinoza Agapova.
Milan says, y'all think Aguilera can cop a win? I mean, look, I think he's got to keep it on the feet. Even though when I spoke to him on Monday, he does feel that people underestimate his grappling ability. But to me, if he's going to win this fight, it's with either his overhand right or his right uppercut. And I think that if Christian wins, it'll be a knockout, and it'll likely be a knockout that you'll see scrolling through your Twitter timeline all the way through tomorrow. That's when Christian scores knockouts, they're usually highlight reel knockouts. I think clearly the path for Ivey is to get the fight to the mat.
All right, let me ask you something, Jason. Is Christian Aguilera the toughest fight for Anthony Ivey of his career?
Yes.
Is Anthony Ivey the toughest fight for Christian Aguilera in his career?
I would say no.
Okay. So that would also be probably why you are leaning a little bit more at Christian Aguilera, and it makes sense. He comes from a great promotion. I mean, let's face it, LFA is an incredible promotion, and they have a lot of talent that ends up going to the UFC. Fury, I had to do my research on Fury. I think that I don't think they're on the level of LFA. Now, just because guys in a better promotion doesn't mean he's going to win all the time. But I do say that Aguilera is the more seasoned guy and has faced a lot of tougher competition.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, he's got a fight against David Shaw. I didn't get a win in that one, but that really is the fight that sticks out to you. I mean, a UFC vet now in the PFL. Jace says thoughts on both main event fighters in the same lineup. I don't think it's an awful idea, because I think I see the fight playing out mostly on the feet, so I think they could rack up some significant strikes.
Yeah, I'll have a lineup with both of them. I'm not big into stacking fights, but not often are you going to find the main event and have Calvillo and I basically mid-level pricing, 7,900, 8,300. I think that's a steal for either one.
Davis says Roberson getting knocked out. We kind of talked about this a little earlier. Vettori, I mean, look, he's a guy who gets the decisions. I mean, I think if it's going to be a quote-unquote knockout, it'll be ground and pound on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe he's alluding to Roberson's getting the KO. That's possible. That is possible. But if Vettori goes out there and knocks him out, I will be impressed. Now, a lot of knockouts happen when you fatigue your opponent and you just really make their defense like draining and you just weigh on them. And he might want to torture Roberson in there. And who knows? I think the finish favors Roberson, though.
Hunter goes, please call them by their last name. Milan says, I think Aguilera is a good GPP play, knockout chance, and he's dirt cheap. I would agree with that. I mean, we've talked about the under 8K options, in terms of your confidence abilities. And, you want to find those fighters that you believe can win by finish. And I think that's something that you would look at.
Yeah, I agree. I don't hate Aguilera at all. I think Ivey is not too experienced when it comes to facing good competition, but he does have a great ground game and they could expose one another. They really could. And it could be back and forth with tons of scrambles. I would say that the cardio advantage favors Ivey, though.
I will say this. One thing I always like to look at is line movements on the betting lines. And over the last hour, the fighters with the most line movement, Julia Avila, Anthony Ivey, Charles Jourdain, and Carl Roberson. Roberson now at plus 190. So earlier today, he had gotten, he was about plus 195. So a little bit of money coming in there. And that's something always to pay attention to. We talked about this earlier in the show of, Jessica I was a favorite at one point. Now she's the underdog. GQ says MVP for Fanduel.
For me, Dalashvili is MVP candidate, regardless of site, regardless of multiplier. I like him a lot. I don't think we've talked enough about Avila. I don't think that she's a bad play, even at 19. I mean, she's in an easy matchup. It's just if Mazzani's tough enough to survive.
Next up, Stan Demand says best value pick under 8K on DraftKings.
I say Calvillo, 5 rounds, potential to win against Jessica I. Jessica I has a bad weight cut. The longer the fight goes, even though Calvillo does struggle with her gas tank, I think it does favor Calvillo.
GQ, I'll say it. Aguilera not knocking out Ivey. Look, in fighting, anything can happen. All it takes is one punch, and it can drastically change the fight. So look, if Ivey's going to win, I think he submits him.
Yeah, I think he either submits him or he just puts on. He's another guy that could have a lot of takedown potential. So, like for me, I have a lineup with 3 wrestling type of studs in case that they all get the victory. I have one with Dalashvili, Ivey, and Feely. Tell me that if those guys all go the grappling route, that's not a juicy 3-part to your lineups. It's just trying to find the other guys to make it work.
CBB Basketball asks, is Espinoza a good play? The only way I would preface it to say yes to that question is low ownership.
Yeah, I mean, the mid-range 8K guys get lost in the shuffle. A lot of people are spending up for better guys that have the more likelihood of finishing the fight, or going cheaper and then spending up elsewhere. Espinoza is not a bad play. I think that he should be able to get a victory here. If he loses to De La Rosa, I'm guessing that his UFC career is done. I think it's both low level in this fight, but they might negate each other.
Chad says the odds that the optimal lineup has 1,000 plus left over. So I will tell you, I created a lineup, and I got to find it right now, and I had 1,300 left.
It's tough this week, Jason, to have that much. You have to take several underdogs or avoid some of the high-priced fighters like a Marab or an Avila. It's tough this week. I think it's going to be under 1,000.
So the lineup that I have 1,300 left on is Christian Aguilera, Jessica I, Andre Feely, Tyson Nam, Charles Rosa, Marvin Vittori.
Dude, that ain't bad. That's a nice lineup.
I mean, look, and we talk about this. Tyson Nam is going to be the chalk. He is going to be the chalk play. I mean, when
it's tough.
No matter we're talking cash, GPP, whatever dollar entry fee is, he's going to be high ownership.
Yeah, I think the highest ownership goes to Dalashvili, and then
so the lineup that I have 1,300 left.
Somebody with
is Christian Aguilera, Jessica I, Andre Feely, Tyson Nam, Charles Rosa, Marvin Vittori.
Tyson Nam's going to be that's a nice lineup.
Philly Boy says, is Adeshev a good play?
I'm pulling for Adeshev. I just know that he took the fight on short notice, obviously. And he's usually fighting a weight class lower and hasn't faced somebody with so many fights and experience like a Tyson Nam. Now, if he had a full camp behind him, I'd feel a lot different and probably think that this fight would be very close, because he does throw a lot of combinations similar to Kai Kara France, who Tyson Nam did struggle against. But the cardio, the back-to-back-to-back camps for Tyson Nam, who's supposed to have been fighting for 2 months now, and, he has that UFC experience, that worldwide experience, championship level experience, wrestling in his back pocket. I think there's just too many things for Tyson Nam to go wrong in this fight.
Anthony says, should you play Davishvili and Julia Avila in the same lineup?
I think I have one lineup with them both. It's tough to do that, though. I mean, you're really skipping out on the mid-range plays, but it's not a terrible play.
Next up, Boots says, chances Davishvili is not in the winning lineup.
I'd be shocked. I would honestly be shocked. I think if he was 9,300 or 9,400, I wouldn't be shocked, because maybe he doesn't pay off that price tag. 9,200 for a last minute replacement. He should do enough. I mean, he needs to average 4 takedowns in the fight, some significant strikes, and a decision win to get 85, 90 points. But you want more than that at the 9,200 price tag. I think it's pretty likely he's in the optimal.
Brad asks, he goes, sorry, I'm all confused. Who is the first fight? The first fight of the night will be Anthony Ivey versus Christian Aguilera. Chad asks, Nam captain percentage. I would say low.
Yeah. That's definitely low. He could surprise people with his scores. Obviously, his other scores were underwhelming, and he hasn't performed to his ability in the UFC. Maybe he's broken, and maybe he just is shot, and the old Tyson Nam will never show up in the UFC, but I think he's a decently safe play.
De La Rosa or Rosa, better dog?
Oh, gosh. What do you say?
I would say Charles Rosa.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think Charles Rosa has shown me more in the cage, and he's fought better competition and actually has excelled, and he has some good glimpses of potential. So I think I'd lean Rosa in that situation.
King Page says, what are the chances of Roberson-Vittori fight going the distance?
Vegas tends to think it's going to the distance. So
I would say 55% chance.
Yeah, I think that fight is a decision, a one-sided decision for Vittori. But, the prop bets for a submission for Marvin Vittori are nice to look at for sure.
Chase asks, is Dashvili MVP with a balanced remaining lineup and no punts too chalky for Fanduel GPP?
Sometimes, simple wins, and overthinking it gets you in trouble. And especially in one lineup, do a chalky one. It's okay. It might be chalky, but it could be the formula for winning.
Jason Miller says Calvillo already in his lineup. So then he has, so I'm guessing he's only asking for one fighter. Kevin Aguilar, Jessica I, or Akapova?
I'd say Akapova.
Yeah. Kevin Seller says Nam going to get knocked out. Kevin, I'll say this. I understand when the UFC calls that you got to take that opportunity. But this being his 5th pro fight, I just don't know if that was the best long-term decision.
Yeah, I mean, in the first round, Adeshev is so dangerous. But if he doesn't put away Tyson Nam, then what are we looking at here? Could we be looking at a guy with 4 fights versus a guy with 30? And it really shows through. It could happen. I think the safe play in this situation is Tyson Nam. Obviously, anything can happen, but I think that's more likely than anything.
Couple more minutes here before we get out of here. Of course, the fights are going to start here in 35 minutes. Anthony goes, who do we see winning in the first round? Now, obviously, FanDuel, it's a big bonus, and obviously a bonus also on DraftKings. Yeah. Is there one that really sticks out to you? Ivey Aguilera would I could see that definitely happening.
Yeah. The Feely fight too, because I think Jourdain's going to want to put him away before that wrestling or that momentum builds, and I don't know. I wonder how many finishes we're going to have, but I definitely think that the first fight of the night is one that I would look at for first round finishes, and same thing with the Jourdain.
Next up, Jay says betting lines moving to Calvillo at -135. Thoughts on why this might be? I look at the way yesterday. I think that's and just the body language of Jessica I. It's a bad look.
Yeah, it's a bad look. I heard a lot of people favoring Jessica I, and I actually was liking the underdog pick of Cynthia Calvillo. Now that the odds have switched, and maybe it's everybody tuning into the show. I don't know, but I think it's more of the body language of Jessica I, and just seeing her how bad she looked on the scale, and not only what we saw, but what she said. Like she said, I don't think I can stand right now. I can't stand anymore, or something like that. Like, take out the audio, okay, and we just see it. There's some skepticism there, and you're like, maybe she did have a bad weight cut. But when she basically confirms it, I'm all over Calvillo.
King Page says, would a head-to-head on DraftKings between you guys?
I'd win that. Come on. I'd win that with like some look at last week, no, because I had way too much Evan Dunham as the punt play. But look at we got weeks where these 7K options are not good. I think that Jason would lose his money pretty quickly.
You keep telling yourself that. You just keep telling yourself that, okay? Just keep telling yourself that. Let's end on this question from Noah. Calvillo looked like she's in the best shape she's been, and I look like the worst she has. Now, I think also you have to remember is Cynthia Calvillo is no longer fighting at 115 pounds. She's now at 125. I think that's also something you have to think about.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people think that just because you're moving up a weight class that you're not going to have success, or if you move down a weight class, you're going to have immediate success. None of that. That's not how it is. So like Calvillo literally could have been killing herself to make the lower weight class, and now she's comfortable, doesn't have to cut too much weight. She feels natural. Maybe she's going to have better cardio because she's not gassing herself out by cutting all that extra weight. I think that she'll be a little bit undersized to Jessica I, but I think that it could work in her advantage and she'll be faster.
Yeah, so we're 30 minutes away here from the fights, Pete. Any final things that you want to get out?
Just head on over to Super Draft. There's a ton of overlay over there. Check it out. I'll be putting in a lineup and running some nice juicy multipliers over there. Thanks for all the questions, guys. You guys are awesome. You guys make this fun. I love answering the questions. I know Jason does too. Hit us up on Twitter. Obviously, if I see it, I'll get to you and help you out. I would never ignore you guys. So thanks so much. Hit that thumbs up. Good luck tonight. Be careful because it's an ugly card, but I do hope that you guys, do well and win some money.
And of course, we'll be back on Thursday for the strategy show for next week's card in Las Vegas. Curtis Blaze versus Alexander Volkov is the main event in that one. So we'll be back here next Thursday. Of course, also next Saturday, we'll have live before lock to get you ready for that card. But we're 30 minutes away from UFC Vegas 2. Thank everyone for tuning in today. Of course, as Pete said, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Be sure to follow the Awesemo MMA account on Twitter at Awesemo MMA. So let's go wrap it up for the UFC Vegas 2 live before lock show. For Pete Rogers Jr., I am Jason Floyd.